Hello everyone. How are you all? So welcome to our session today on staying positive in a job market. It's been a very well publicised event and lots of people have been really interested in it. I'm Jenny. I am the founder of Bohemian HR, an HR recruitment business. You'll hear from my accent. I'm based up in Aberdeen, but I look after the whole of the UK. I'd love to go around the room first of all and introduce who we've got here. So I'll start with you, Nikki.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon. So I'm Nikki Corbishley. I'm a leadership coach specialising in helping senior HR professionals reconnect with themselves through their strengths, authenticity and values, and then rebuild confidence for purposeful and fulfilling careers. And I have my signature framework, the new way that I help people to work through that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nikki. And then James.
Yeah, welcome all. So I'm a business psychologist. I've been in the kind of L&D and talent assessment space now for about 30 years, initially in the corporate arena doing kind of HR roles, ER roles, L&D roles, and then moved into business psychology kind of role and was one of the pioneers of strengths assessment and development in the UK. So built the first strengths assessment outside of the US. Sold that in 2018 and now have got another strengths assessment, and we use it a lot for career transition and obviously aligning strengths with career opportunities and so on. So hopefully, I can bring some value in that way during this session today.
Definitely. Thank you. Lorraine.
Hi folks, I'm Lorraine Ivers. I'm a career coach and mentor for HR leaders. You can hear from my accent that I'm from Scotland as well, but I've recently relocated to sunny Algarve in Portugal. I'm an ex-HRD with over 3 decades experience in HR until I burnt out and pivoted to self-employment at the ripe old age of 57. So I work exclusively one-to-one with clients on a range of services, including my signature Gain Career Clarity programme. So I get to see firsthand the impact of this tough job market that we're in at the moment. And I've tailored my services to support HR leaders so that they can get clear on who they are, want from the next chapter, and build that confidence to not compromise, no more surviving. We're looking for thriving. I'm also the author of the Job Searchers Gratitude Journal to support people on that journey. And over the years, I've had personal experience of the job market. I've had lots of HR jobs. I've also been made redundant, and I've also been settled out of a role at my insistence, should I say. So like everybody else, very much looking forward to the session because I think it's much needed at the moment.
Thank you so much, Lorraine, and thank you. I wonder whether we start with just asking the people that have joined us, asking you all where people are dialing in from and maybe, what's happening to them right now. Are they actively looking for work and how are they finding the job market? Any sort of insight, please feel free to pop into the chat. So the first question I wanted to ask was about the current HR market and maybe what shifts we're seeing, what trends we're seeing in the current market and what people should be paying attention to. I don't know whether, do you want me to start with my HR recruitment background?
I think that would be a good idea.
So I support HR professionals from sort of business partner upwards in the job market, and certainly navigating the job market since I think about 23 has been quite a challenge, and so much so I've set up some support groups as well that people join on a Monday morning so that we can talk about where we're at with the market. And I think the general consensus is starting to get better. The tail end of this year, and we're hopeful for the market next year. I think we're seeing more in the generalist space, and actually some of the specialist areas are suffering a bit more than the generalists. You know, so for example, talent acquisition has been really tough the last sort of 24 months. And the other thing we're seeing is HR leaders are finding it difficult as well. So that senior end, so HR directors, CPO roles, there's definitely a lot less of those around than there had been historically. So yeah, I think, and the volumes of applications is another thing that people are seeing. So when an advert goes up, you know, you've got hundreds of applications in there within sort of 24 hours, 48 hours. So it's certainly a tough market, as we've said. And yes, I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's hints and tips on how we help people stay positive. Yes, anyone else's thoughts on the current market and what they're seeing?
What I'm hearing, Jenny, is that the process is ever more protracted, with some people going through 7 different types of assessment and interview, and often not getting timely feedback after each of them. And then obviously the dreaded ghosting that happens as well. So
yes.
You know, some people are saying they almost feel like their expertise has been stolen. You know, they're asked to do assessment relating to particular projects, and then, you know, worried that work's going to get stolen by the organisation when they don't get the job. So
yes,
I'm feeding back what I'm hearing from my clients, which are mainly in the HR leader group.
Yeah, what I'm seeing personally is everything that you've both talked about, but I think there's something else happening as well, which is that there's the fractional kind of interim market is growing, I believe, and I see particularly fractional roles coming out a lot more now, and I think that's a trend that will continue. But in terms of those full-time roles, you know, particularly the heads of and that sort of thing, I think absolutely there's a lot of pressure on those roles, and you know, not as many of those as there used to be. And also kind of I think certainly at the bottom end as well, organizations starting to look at AI, you know,
yes,
to replace those, you know, entry level kind of the HR coordinator, analyst roles, that sort of those sorts of roles. So I think it's really kind of a very kind of uneven effect in terms of the different type of roles in the market, how the economy, tough economy is impacting those. And I do, unfortunately, because I'm not a broker of hope, I'm a broker of realism. And I do think that whilst the market is going to improve, I think it's probably going to be a tough market in 2026. And then I think we'll start seeing a better market, you know, moving into 2027. That's just kind of my personal view. It's a subjective view, but that's how I see it, because I think the economy is going to get tougher before it gets better. So, but I think there's things that we can do to position ourselves better for that you know, tough market coming up, which no doubt we'll get into later.
Absolutely.
Jenny,
I reflect everything that you said, really about it. It's a recruiter's market, it's not a candidate market. So decision makers are taking longer, and there seems to be more decision makers, even at like graduate level. I mean, my stepson has just taken 6 months to get a role as a graduate. And it's taken that long to go through all of the interviews and get the offer out and everything. So and then interestingly, on your point, Jenny, about lots of applicants, I also heard that only about 7 to 10% of that number meet the criteria. So not to have that put you off actually applying when you think, oh, you know, 400 people have applied for this already. Just remember that a lot of those might be people that are abroad, for example, and haven't got right to work over in the UK and things like that.
It's such a good point. And actually, on LinkedIn, for example, when it says number of applications, often those are people that have looked at the post or potentially have applied that don't have any of the skill set needed. So the volumes are quite mixed. The percentage, as you say, that are actually suitable for the role is a lot less than the numbers that you're seeing. And I think one of the things we talk about in the group that we're in is really focusing on the jobs that you want, and that you, so that are aligned to your values, that are aligned to what it is you're actually looking for. Often when we're out of work, we can apply for lots of jobs rather than the ones specifically that we want, because we're worried and we're a bit anxious about our current situation. But what I'm always sharing with people is often then we're just setting yourself up for that feeling of rejection, because we've applied for roles that aren't actually aligned to what we're looking for, and generally we don't get considered for those anyway. So being very true to ourselves about what we want, and then applying for that, I think is quite key in this current market. So yes, sorry, Lorraine, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say, somebody in the chat said they were having some tech issues, but they're the only person, so I think maybe it's sorted.
Okay. Well, thanks for keeping an eye on that as well.
I think the other thing that some people have referred to in the chat, Jenny, is that Lorraine, you referred to it earlier as ghosting, but that expectation around when and if you ever hear back after you send an application. I think the days of knowing that you're going to get a response are behind us now, and it's shifting that expectation. Yes,
and it is something that is a big problem, isn't it? And it's yes, it'll be to do with volume. I think there's some courtesy missing in some of the application processes for sure. Absolutely. So I just wanted to ask, so bearing in mind, the volume of people that are on the market, obviously people are, when confidence can be knocked during this process. So, for example, people might have gone through redundancy or going through rejection in this process. What's the best first step that people can take to start rebuilding that?
Pause. Take a breath. Don't rush into just panic applying for things. This is a really important time to take a step back and consider what's right for you next. And many of us listen to stories in our head about what we think we should be doing, based on what we think others will value us on. But it's like, what do you actually want to do now? How are you going to tackle this? What's your mindset that you're going to take into applying for roles? Unfortunately, a lot of us are forced into making career change decisions, as opposed to when we're in jobs and we know we're not happy, we put up with it, and sometimes it might not look like it, but it is a benefit when it's forced upon us, because it gives us that opportunity to step back, pause, breathe, and go, right, what do I really want to do now? That's the first thing that I would say.
It's actually quite a big question, isn't it? We'll start with pause. Lorraine.
I think Nikki's made a really good point there. And I think what happens when we go into that panic mode is we forget all our strengths and our skills. So, I'm very keen in encouraging clients when they come to gather that evidence, that positive feedback and, the performance reviews that they've had, and tap into that and tap into what lights you up, so that you're making sure, as you say, that you're not going and doing that scattergun approach, that you're actually going to be applying for your next role will be your right role. It taps into your strengths, it taps into your values. So I think it's really important that reconnecting with who you are, what lights you up as well, to help build that clarity and the confidence. The confidence comes when we remember who we are professionally, not just talking ourselves into being confident, because you can't.
No, exactly. James, over to you.
Yeah, I think I just want to build on what Nikki and Lorraine have already said, because I agree with all of it. I think initially, I think it is about that pause, take a breath, don't panic, for God's sake, don't panic. And if necessary, kind of, or if, and also if income allows it, take a few weeks off, go away, clear the head, walk in nature, whatever the case might be. Take the family away or whatever. But then I think it is about probably getting some structure to your day, because if you don't, I think there's a tendency to kind of start panicking and overthinking things, and then the fear creeps in and that sort of exacerbates it. And then it's like, oh, I wake up every morning, what have I got to do in my day? I've got nothing to do, and so on. So I think it's about putting some structure and reframing that situation, that transition, as an opportunity to grow, to learn, to reconnect with people you maybe haven't connected with for a long time, to maybe invest a little bit in your health and wellness, well-being, and also what Lorraine says, of course, I believe as well, which is around really reconnecting with your strengths and making sure you sort of document somewhere your strengths, successes, and your skills, so you can start taking those out and maybe getting some input on those, feedback on those, and start taking those out and talking about them with confidence as well. So I think it's all those things. But as I said, I think what I see with a lot of people, in fact, I had a great example the other day. Somebody had 2 jobs that he was made redundant from. And essentially what he's done is he's invested in himself in terms of AI in particular and vibe coding. So he's, gone in and kind of invested in that and so on. And I think that's just a fantastic kind of way to approach these, sort of liminal transitional kind of stages in your career, where you can upskill, reskill, learn, grow, find new opportunities, and maybe even do something totally different. Maybe even recognize that you want to move into, as somebody else I know has done, move into a company that kind of renovates buildings. So it's really thinking about it in a broader sense, in terms of what I really want, what's going to give me meaning, what's going to give me purpose now in my life.
Absolutely. I think when I've been working with candidates, it's as you say, Nikki, taking that step back, pausing, it's reevaluating what's important to you. Sometimes I've revisited my values a couple of times lately, and it's made such a difference knowing what I'm about. And when I speak to candidates, that's helped them as well. And then it's, spending time reflecting on what you want, spending time looking at your CV, looking at your profile, making sure that you're presenting yourself out to the market in a way so that you're found for the right things as well. So it is a time of reflection, and then looking at how you want to network, who you want to be speaking to, and as I said, reconnecting with your previous colleagues, things like that as well. So certainly that's all really good advice. Is there anything else that anyone wants to add to that? The next question actually will probably bring us closer to that, which is around HR professionals keeping a sense of purpose and progress during these long periods of job searching. And I noticed in the chat, there are some people that have been more recently out of work, and others have been for months, and sometimes it's over 12 months as well. So it's a long time, isn't it, to be looking. So what sort of tips do you have for people?
I think if you don't mind me jumping in first, because I think, I've seen a lot of people who've done this really well. I've also seen people that haven't done this well. And I think the people that haven't done it well tend to be quite sort of reactive, quite passive, and that sort of thing. And I think, again, it's about taking opportunities to connect with people and to offer your services, even on a pro bono basis, get involved in charities, get involved in, kind of not-for-profits, get involved in just saying, look, I don't mind coming along on a free of charge basis, kind of working for you for a few weeks, delivering that particular project or whatever the case may be, provided we can agree something, that is in line with obviously my contribution of value moving forward. So I think it is about, as I say, not being kind of passive and reactive and being, consumed by fear and self-limiting assumptions, which some people are. It's about really kind of putting your strengths out there, your skills out there, your experience, and saying, look, there's definitely organizations, individuals, teams, and so on that will gain value from that, and connecting with people and offering offering up your services in that way. Because I think that will be adding to your CV. It will be adding to that richness of your diversity of your experience.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, James, because that's exactly what I did when I left my job 4 years ago. I started connecting with people, and one of my ex-HRDs went, "Oh, we're just doing a policy review. Would you mind doing them for me?" And another ex-colleague went, "Oh, I could do with some mentoring. Would you mind doing that for me?" So, Brilliant. Definitely opens up doors and opportunities, and opens your minds to seeing how other organisations operate differently to what you're used to as well. Whilst I'm here, I'll just also add, I coached someone who recently was really scattergun, panic, applying for anything, getting really demoralised. And what worked for her was putting a plan. She had an Excel spreadsheet. She was a data person, and really once we'd defined what it is that she really wanted and what her values were and purpose and also culture, what she was looking for and all those sorts of things, she then set targets for how many roles she'd applied for, how many she had, and then she started to score each of the job roles that came up that went, right, how do these match against my desired criteria? And it really kept her on track. And actually, after about 4 months of applying, she got a role within a month of just taking that planned strategic approach. It just takes you out that doom scrolling and just sort of like feeling a bit sort of like you're being done to. You've got more control over your approach to job hunting.
Absolutely. There was a colleague of mine, he works in the marketing space, but he did a review. So in the marketing space, one of his senior candidates treated his job search like a marketing funnel. So basically he decided, like you were just saying there, Nikki, what is it I want? Who is it I want to work for? And then looked at his connections. You can download your LinkedIn connections. So downloaded his connections, went through the spreadsheet and highlighted the people that he wanted to be in touch with, and then systematically approached all of those individuals, and gave himself some targets. I'm going to do this many, maybe this many posts, this many reach outs, this many new connections, arrange this many coffees, and just gave him the purpose to keep going, and also kept him really focused on what it was that he wanted. And I think I've got the report somewhere. I'll try and get it, and we can add it on to Kirsty's email, because it makes for really good reading of when you make your search more purposeful and planned. There was a really successful outcome after 12 weeks. So it is possible. We can make it a project which keeps us focused. Yeah. Absolutely. Lorraine.
What I was going to add is I'm looking in the chat, and I can see a lot of people saying it's bleak, it's really affecting their mental health. And I think, all the advice that we're given is great. I think we need to recognise, though, that you're on the job market usually because you're redundant or you've burnt out, you've been settled out the door, restructured, whatever. And there's that moment of loss of identity. You don't have your corporate title anymore. It's like, who the hell am I? And I remember when I moved into coaching after going through all my counselling and coaching, it took me ages to shake off I was that person, that HR director. So I think we need to recognise that there needs to be, you said, James, you take some time out. And I think that is a great idea because you're in shock.
Yeah.
You really need to find a way to work through that. And just, I say to clients, just take baby steps, just start. And it's about working with people. If they're data, they'll want the spreadsheet. If they're extrovert, they'll want to go and connect with people and what. So it's just trying to find what's going to work for you. Just taking those little steps.
Absolutely right. And the other. Sorry, carry on, James.
Can I just build on what Lorraine was saying there? Because I think it's so important. I sold my business after 13 years, Lorraine, and I after about a month, I hit a mental health real kind of bad patch, which was exacerbated because then the sort of COVID happened and that sort of thing was exacerbated during that time. And I think for me, why did that happen? Well, because I wasn't reaching out to enough people. Because I'm not a natural collaborator, right? I've learned to collaborate. I'm very intentional about it, but I'm not a natural collaborator. And so then I started reaching out and started collaborating more with people, and reached out to my mentor, got my mentor kind of on board, helping me and that sort of thing. And I think that was just an incredible, for me, period of growth and learning and renewal, and restoring kind of, my connection with my strengths and my successes and what I'd achieved and so on. So even when you sell a business, and a successful business at that, and you stepping away, and this is what a lot of entrepreneurs, for example, don't realize, that can be a massive kind of shock and can impact adversely in terms of kind of your mental health. So yeah, absolutely. Any form of kind of, because your identity is so tied up in your role, and especially if you've been in that role for a long time, you're at a senior level or whatever the case may be, or any level, but if you've been in that role for a long time and you've put heart and soul into that role, of course it's going to be a huge shock for the system. And the best thing you can do is to share that pain with others, to talk it through, to move forward, to take a break, to go through that kind of renewal process, but then reconnect quite quickly. Take the learning, reconnect with your strengths and successes and skills, and then go out there and really start the planning and the forward momentum.
And I think that network and sort of community and being with people that understand where you're at is quite key when it continues to be tough. So Carol's put in the chat that she's done a lot of these things that we've mentioned, but 5 months in and lost her enthusiasm. And I think it's relationships and not feeling like you're isolated and on your own, sat in your house, and getting out with people will just help you to keep going as well.
I know that's what we've found with the group that we do on a Monday morning, just having that ability, joining a group of people who are all in a similar circumstances from different types of roles, and sharing how they're feeling and the different actions they're taking to keep each other going does make a difference to individuals. There was just another thought I had, Lorraine, based on what you said, which you quite rightly said, confidence does get knocked, especially the longer you're out of work. And one of the things we've spoken about is some candidates say the further they get away from their last role, the less confident they are on sharing their experience when they go for an interview, because you feel like it's 6 months ago since I did that. And what I have often shared with them is, think of your examples and think of the experience that you've had, and think of it in today's, as if it was today. Keep yourself anchoring the experience that you had 6 months ago, so that when you're going there, you're talking about your experience as if it's still now. And I know that's very easy to say. But I think if you practice your examples and practice your experience and think about it, put yourself back in the shoes of where you were then, it helps it stay current, because there is that gap. And it's about remembering there's lots of people in this circumstance, and it's okay to have that gap, but just talk confidently about the experience that you had at that time.
I think also there's a few people in the chat, sharing their frustrations of how long they've been in this situation for, and it's knowing that none of these things are a magic wand, and knowing that it, unfortunately, it will be frustrating, it will be tough, you will have shit days, but by doing as many things as possible to stay, so you can bounce back quickly, that's where the sort of strength comes in with the things that we're sharing today. Absolutely.
And remembering what you said, James, about the thing is, you can't. I'm conscious of not saying what you should and shouldn't do. So it's more about what works for you individually, but finding that space to do the getting out for fresh air, or, recognizing that looking for a job can feel like a full-time job in itself. But it's okay to spend 2 or 3 hours and then go off and spend 2 or 3 hours doing something totally different. Because
I'd say it's essential, Jenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's about sort of leaning into some of that discomfort. And I think where I did get it right, for example, where I sold my business, is I signed up for 2 programs, and one was actually an AI program. This was kind of before the pandemic, and before AI was a big thing. But I thought it might become a big thing, so I thought, well, actually, I want to learn about this. And so I think that kind of investing in learning, investing in development, investing in connection is so important, because there's very rarely that's very rarely a waste of time. It's very rarely a wasted investment. It's usually kind of a really good investment. And also what it does is it keeps your experience really relevant and live. Because what happens is, for a lot of these sorts of courses, you have to talk about your experience, and you have to relate the frameworks and the tools and everything to your experiences. So it keeps it kind of live. It keeps it kind of front of mind for you. It gets you to think about your experience in different ways. And so I would definitely encourage people to, and I think we're all going to have to do this. I don't think it's unique to people who are looking for a job at the moment, because I think in future, probably all of us are going to be looking for different work opportunities, and our work's going to change, and we're going to have to reskill, upskill, and so on. So I think what's really important is that we just all learn to be self-development ninjas, right?
Yeah.
That we just throw ourselves into lots of different types of development, and development that's going to really make a meaningful impact for organizations moving forward, whatever impact is that really kind of motivates you and gets you going in the morning. But it's really important, whether it's sort of vibe coding, or whether it's kind of workforce transformation, or whether it's coaching or mentoring or whatever it is. We know these things are needed.
And all that learning doesn't have to cost money. It can be there's plenty of people offering value on webinars, on workshops, on podcasts. I've recently done my last project was around OD, and I've never done OD, and I found some really valuable podcasts and things, and really started, by the end of it, I was an expert on OD, and it's having that curious mindset and seeking stuff out, and then going, okay, I'm interested in that. Let me find something else.
Yes.
But one of the other things I found when I'd left my role because I was burnt out, was that by doing a course, it built my confidence, because I thought, actually, I'm not that bad. I do know what I'm talking about.
Some reassurance, isn't it? And I was just going to say the same. I think there's a lot, even us in the room today, we are all offering out masterclasses and things like that are Evolving HR is full of sessions that can help us to feel like we're continually pushing forward in some way. And because, I think someone in the chat said that, there is a cost that sometimes goes with personal development. And I think it's wonderful, the kind of things that service providers are now putting out there for free to help people who are looking.
Well, even things like, going to ChatGPT and saying, create a course for me. Content now is being democratized. I was having a chat with somebody in the EdTech area around this the other day, and content is being democratized. There's not a lot of value in content anymore. And so organizations are, literally Google's giving a lot of their training away. Other organizations, like, for instance, if you want to train up now in, prompt engineering for AI sort of, ChatGPT prompting, you don't need to pay for it. There's organizations that give that away. So the best thing you can do is go to ChatGPT, go to Google, go to Gemini, or whatever AI you use. Just stick in, where can I find free courses on mentoring, coaching, whatever, and it will come up with loads of hits.
Fantastic.
So, it doesn't need to cost money, and that's a key thing.
Yeah. So before I go into this next question, I was just going to say, because I'm keeping an eye on the chat, and there's also people are sharing their experiences, but also things that are working for them as well. So please, everybody, keep sharing your hints and tips that you have for each other, because what I find is when we bring a group of people together who are in this situation, people are learning from each other as well as from people that are from ourselves that are in this session. So yes, please keep the chat. We're keeping it we're keeping an eye on it.
Jenny, did you see Nikki's question? She
I was
posted
just
quite
about,
a while
yes.
ago. That might be up your street to answer that one.
I think, so Nikki's asked about advice for us who are more mature in age and how we tackle the extra bias. It's there's quite a lot of chat about this in LinkedIn, isn't there? Because we are finding that, and I don't really know how to fully answer it, because it's so confusing, I think, because actually, if we think about the exec side of the market, the HR leaders and so on, we are quite likely to be in our late 30s, 40s, 50s, and looking in the market. Can I say it's not happening? No, I don't think so. I would like to. I wish I could say it wasn't happening, but I'm not convinced on that. There's lots of advice out there, and it's how you feel about it. Things like in your CV, making sure. And I think this is actually good advice in your CV, is actually focusing your attention on sort of the last 10, 15 years worth of work experience, rather than going into detail on every single job that you've had since leaving school or university. And I think that's good advice. We don't need to see lots and lots of information from your historical roles. And I would say it's networking, it's showing your value, it's keeping yourself developing on what's happening in today's HR world. I don't know who else has thoughts on this question.
I echo what you're saying. It's unfortunate. It's real, but there is. You shouldn't need to, but there is things you can do in your CV and applications to try and at least get past that first post with the bias. But, it's knowing, the mature candidates, bring a level of experience, expertise, and, maybe have less external responsibilities to focus. And it's a myth, the health, equally as healthy as well. So in fact, it's a working title of my next book. It's Never Too Late to Change Career, because it really is.
Brilliant. I love that. And I think, what I see is, again, there's a lot of interest in older, more experienced employees. And in fact, I was looking for one recently, and I went on, and did a Google search on recruitment agencies, kind of more experienced kind of employees, and a whole bunch came up, right? So there's quite a few agencies that are actually specializing in this area now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of organizations that are looking for those sorts of people. So again, it's about reframing it and saying that there's just as many, even more probably, organizations that are interested in those older, more experienced people as there are that are disinterested.
Yes.
So let's focus on the ones that are interested, right?
Yeah.
Let's go after those. Because if you reframe it in terms of what are the possibilities, what are the opportunities, and how can I really leverage that strength in terms of my maturity, my experience, my kind of wisdom, all that sort of thing, then I think you're more likely to find a role that fits with you, and you can create value.
And in my experience as well, is that it's there's less bias when you're applying for interim roles as well. So I was very much industry segmented, and I couldn't get a permanent role, not in the sector that I'd got my experience in. I'd grown up in the hospitality sector, and the minute I went freelance and started doing interim work, no one even bothered about what they wanted to know was that the value I could bring and do the job. My age and anything else around sort of what I'd done was no longer important or relevant. There seems to be a mindset shift with people when they're recruiting interim roles rather than permanent.
I was just going to say as well, I think it's building relationships up with a handful of recruitment businesses, so not having sort of 20, 30 on your list. Yes, okay, we do need, agencies there's so many HR recruitment businesses now that to be able to get access to the jobs out there, you have to be registered with quite a few. What I would say is nurturing relationships up with maybe 4 or 5 and really engaging with them about what you want and ensuring that they're representing you and positively sharing your story when, you know, at all ages, but, you know, if you're a more mature candidate, as Nikki was asking, is talking to them about it, you know, so this is what I bring, this is what I'm looking for, can you help talk to clients about me in this light, you know, because there's some responsibility on our part as recruitment professionals to support candidates of all who feel that they're faced with all sorts of bias to get into the job market. So building relationships where you can really have an open discussion about it, I think, is really beneficial as well.
Yeah, and Paula and Scott, I think their comments, I think also just sort of really build on what we've been talking about here, you know, in terms of repositioning that CV, but also I think in terms of, you know, organizations where there is bias, and that's often with the hiring managers, not the recruitment agencies, which is Scott's point there. I think we really need to, you know, be challenging them, but also the people who hold those kind of HR roles, those key decision roles and influence roles kind of within organizations. But also I think, you know, there's as many organizations that I think are really interested in that maturity, that experience and everything else. And really value some of those generational differences and that generational diversity.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of conversation about managing multi-generational workforces now. And I think thinking about that as a candidate, when you're going in to have these interviews and conversations, you're able to talk about that, because actually the fact that there is a multi-generational workforce should work in our favour. So, you know, acknowledging it, I think will definitely help, and that can help with your prep as well. I'm very conscious. This is such. There's so much to talk about, isn't there? And I'm very conscious of our time. So, what practical things can people do to stay visible and connected when they're not in a role?
I think we've covered quite a bit of this already in the discussion. So, you know, for me, I was going to talk about reaching out to your network, and I think, you know, there's no shame in being out of work, and I think that sort of holds people back from doing that reach out. So I would definitely encourage that, and more so let people know exactly what it is you're looking for if you know. And also we've talked about reconnecting with your lost network, because I know we can get caught up in the busyness of work and then we let these connections and relationships drift. So, you know, reaching out to your old colleagues, what you said, Jenny, about recruiters that you trust, and attending online or in-person events, because you honestly never know where a conversation will lead. And I very much encourage my clients, after we've done all the foundation work and they're clear on what they're looking for, to do that reach out for an informational interview, just, you know, connecting with somebody in LinkedIn in the area that you're looking for and just asking for a 15-minute chat with them, not to ask for a job, but just to get a bit more information. And I've actually had people that have gained work through doing that, 2 of my clients. So it really is worthwhile doing that and getting visible. And I know when you've had that shock, the last thing you want to do is go on LinkedIn, and we'll probably come on to the question about green banner or not. So, you know, the visibility, it's not self-promotion. It's about, you know, contributing to the professional space and adding value. You're just commenting gently on other posts just to get yourself confident and started. And, you know, a lot of people have found that when they comment on the state of the market or their experience, you know, they're showing their true self, they're showing their authenticity. And, you know, people relate to that honesty and humanity as much as your competence as well. So just all of these good things that we've talked about. But I'm recognising, I know it's hard when you've lost your confidence, and it is about those, let's just take it step by step.
And also in-person stuff. I mean, there's loads of events, if you look on Eventbrite and things locally that are relevant for HR professionals and not as well. You know, a number of people in the chat have said about volunteering. You know, that's still getting visible. You never know who you're going to meet and who they might know and what they might know as well. Yeah.
I think there is also an opportunity if you've been out of work for a while to also maybe just invite a few people for coffee, who are local to you, who are also in a similar situation, so you can all sort of share experiences, discuss strategies, support each other, provide that emotional support, that practical support, and that sort of thing as well. So as well as the conferences and the networking events, the sort of more formal network events, I know quite a few people have created their own little networks which are local to them, and there's always going to be people in a similar situation to you in your area. Or in your part of the UK. So I think it's just about thinking outside the box and being a little bit creative about how you do this. But that peer support, I think, is just so important. It's so important. We can't understate the importance of that, as well as the mentor and the coach and the friend and the confidant and all those sorts of people. That peer support is really important.
Absolutely. And your group, Jenny, you'll see it. You'll see people suddenly feeling seen and heard for the first time. And there's lots of Facebook groups like Jenny's, etc., that are really helpful for people to have that sense of community and know that they're not alone in this. That it is, and it's not just a moan fest. It's actually genuine support and help.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, so you raised the green banner, the Open to Work green banner, and I do think it's something that's always, there's so many posts that don't have it, and it, what's your take on it?
I'm a yes for it.
You're a yes person.
I'm a yes. I think there's no shame in it, there but for the grace, and also from a recruiter's perspective, then that's somebody who is on the market looking for work, so to reach out to them. And I think as well, you're saying create your own networks, Jane. So, you might see somebody with a green banner and go, oh, I remember I used to work with, I'll just reach out to them. So I'm all for it. I know there's some people that say lose it, but no, I'm with it.
Totally agree. And the other reason for using it is because there's a lot of people like me, because I've got a team and I recruit into the team, who go through and they search, so I've been searching recently for business psychologists, right? So you go through business psychologists and I look for the green banner and I reach out to people that I'm interested in. So it's a clear signal that you're looking for work. And I think there's going to be a lot of now internal recruiters who are circumventing agencies and who are using those green banners as signals. So why not? In this world, it's very open, transparent, so we've got to start doing these sorts of things which are going to...
What are the barriers? Really, why wouldn't you have it on?
It's a good question.
Do you know?
Well, there's some people... Well, I got a roasting on LinkedIn for supporting it from, I think she was in the States, but just felt it was just, I think her word she said was prostituting yourself, and I just
but there is a myth still out there, and I think the main reason why people don't put it on there, because it's this whole thing about if you've got a job, then you're kind of more employable, right?
That's just what Haley said.
It's a myth, right? And it's a myth that we need to start challenging and dispelling, because I think there's especially in this day and age, and I think it's going to be profoundly different in the next few years, where there's going to be a lot of people, as I said, who are going to be looking for fractional work, looking for interim work, different types of work. And I think we got to think about how work is changing as well. So it won't just be kind of those full-time roles or even those part-time roles anymore. It's going to be very, very different moving forward. And so I think we're going to have to become just more comfortable with these things and recognize that, some people will be in between. And that's great, because those in between periods are sometimes just as important as the times when you've got those roles, those opportunities.
I think it is the narrative, and it is changing, and it's the mindset that needs to change with it. I mean, my last project, my CPO said she's been tasked for budget purposes to think about having less permanent people in the HR team and more fractional HR people. And our recruiter in-house, she used to seek people out, like you said, James, as well. So I was thinking of, is it similar to when you put your for sale board up outside your house and you don't want everyone nosing at your house on LinkedIn? I don't know, on Rightmove.
Or your support for a political party. Scott has actually commented. Scott clearly doesn't agree with some of what's been said, because he says, I think some feel it smacks of desperate. Scott, I think that's a great point you're making, because I think that's how people still see it. And I think it is going to shift, right? It is going to shift, because, as I say, there's just going to be more people who are looking for different types of work and work arrangements in future, for sure. With AI and how AI is going to be totally disruptive of many sectors, many organizations.
I think with the green, for me, green banner, you can green banner if you like. It doesn't tell me, I don't ever think anyone's desperate because they put the green banner on it. It allows me to see straight away when I've done a search of a number of people who's really active in the job market, which is sometimes, is you just go straight to that. It's great. And there is ways, and I think this is important, is making sure that your LinkedIn is set up so that you can be found. So, for example, saying that you're open to work even without using the banner, making sure you're showing as open to work, making sure your skills are up to date, making sure that in your profile section that it's clear about the role that you do and want. Often people say things, they give themselves kind of made up sort of titles and things like that in the top. We want to be really concise and so that when anyone's looking at your profile, even looking at the top part that you can see on your phone, because if you think a lot of people will be searching using their mobile phone and things like that, really important to get the key information visible so that you can be found. So yes, use the green banner if you like, but definitely make sure that you're coded up correctly so that you can be seen. I'm very conscious. I can't believe time has gone by so quickly, hasn't it? So we've already talked about community and peer support. So I think that's great. How do we balance staying positive with being realistic in today's market? What advice can we give?
Well, I think for me, there's a big difference between kind of, having hope and having a clear kind of strategy with that hope. And I think what we need to ensure that we clearly are hopeful that things are going to get better, have a clear picture of success, of how it's going to get better, how our strengths and our successes and our skills can help us to, make it better, get that opportunity we're looking for and that sort of thing, that meaningful opportunity. So I think those are some of the key things for me. So, But for me, if you're just overly positive and you've got these kind of rose-tinted glasses and you're sitting there quite passively thinking that the job's going to come to you, I think you kind of need to change your mindset, because the job's not going to come to you. You need to go out and you need to find that opportunity. You need to make those connections, engage in that learning and development. If necessary, do that pro bono work, sign up for that, that charity or whatever the case may be. So you need to be very active and set some clear targets and some clear goals. A little bit like Nikki was talking about earlier, which I thought was this friend, that spreadsheet and so on. You need to have some structure, and that structure will eventually translate into opportunities. I think the other thing is just being flexible, because some people, I meet, they're incredibly inflexible. And they say, well, I only want to work 4 days a week, and and I won't work for that particular type of organization at all. I won't even try it. And you say to them, have you ever tried it? No, I've never tried it, but I don't want to. I imagine it will be a nightmare, it'll be horrible. And so it's really about challenging some of your own assumptions and your own kind of limiting beliefs, because that will also open up, I think, usually a rich vein of opportunity. So I think that's really important as well. But yeah, being hopeful is important, but be hopeful with a plan and a clear strategy that you execute decisively, rather than just hoping something's going to come your way. Because life really happens like that in my experience.
I call it optimistic realism, and
absolutely,
acknowledging that this is a tough marketplace, that it's going to be slow, it's going to be competitive, but without letting it determine your self-worth or your future, and recognizing, it's okay to feel crap in certain days, but that resilience isn't pretending everything's okay. It's that inner ability to keep moving despite the uncertainty.
And I would say grit. So having, that growth mindset and the grit for your long-term goals, but knowing that it is a tough market and you might need that agility and you might need to do something temporary or whatever. But as long as you're focused on your end goal, how's that going to get you to there? Even if it's, I'm trying to build my business. It's no different. I've got no money coming in. I was looking at jobs at Waitrose for Christmas. Not mainly for money, but also to get out there and, meet other people and things. And it doesn't mean I don't want to build my business and that's not my long-term goal. It just means it's a bit squiggly to get there sometimes.
Yes, it is squiggly to get there for sure. And I think I would agree with everything you're all saying. And there is a balance, and you can't be, hey, all the time, there is times where you're going to need to take a break, or you're going to have to look after yourself. And I think it does come, for me, it comes back to the community, the asking for help as well. I'm not I think as a maybe as a nation, we're not great at asking for help. But actually, when you do, you find that people really want to help you. Nurturing your network, asking for the help, doing like what you said, Lorraine, about the 15-minute conversations with people to find out what's going on can really help. Connection and community for sure. So I just want to, because we are, can you believe, like we're at the end, and thank you everyone for all your interaction in the chat as well. So just to finish off, what one piece of advice, if you can give one piece of advice to anyone feeling stuck right now, would it be?
I'll go first. Don't struggle in isolation. Please reach out, get the support, talk to peers, join a support group, invest in coaching if you can. Of course, I'm going to say that. Sometimes that clarity that you need is on the other side of a conversation, whoever that's with. You just don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take the first brave step.
Yes.
I think I'd say kind of reframe the, because a lot of people see it as a setback, and that's when the self-doubt starts creeping in and that sort of thing. And you need a counter narrative. And I think that counter narrative, it comes through, first of all, reconnecting with the strengths of successes and the skills, as I've said many times, because I think that's kind of certainly what we're all about. And we've seen that work, and I've seen that work over decades. And the research suggests that works. So that's really important in terms of that resilience, in terms of that grit that Nikki was talking about earlier and so on. But I think the other thing is that kind of whole mindset that you need, and reframe it as this opportunity for growth and for renewal, and to do something maybe different from what you've been doing in the past. So, that ability to step back and diverge and then converge again, that whole thing we started off with, which is that breathe, but then also kind of diverge, think about the different options, think about the different possibilities. Think about the opportunities, and then converge again. Because sometimes people just get stuck and they end up spinning their wheels in the same place.
Nikki?
For me, I'd say know that you are good enough. It's not you, it's the market. So, keep going, stick with it, apply a growth mindset if you can, and recognise that there will be ups and downs. And just one final thing is, try and, it might sound really difficult to do, and it is, because I've been there myself, but try and make the most of not working. What little things could you be doing that you don't get the opportunity to when you're in full-time, part-time employment?
Yeah. And it is an opportunity to find your tribe, and you know, that will be in communities, that will be with recruiters that you're getting to know, it will be with people, friends, you know, colleagues, etc. And really, and I know I said it before, but it is asking for help, because you are not alone. And as you quite rightly said, Nikki, it's not you, it is the market. So being mindful of that. Yes, reach out. So, I mean, obviously, we're all here on this session because we want to help. So please, anyone on this call, feel free to reach out to any one of us to ask advice. Kirsty is going to be sharing after this with the recording links to everyone here. So yes, we are here to help. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you, everyone in the panel.
Thanks for hosting.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
I don't know how to